Well, hey everybody, and welcome to Mailbag, the all mailbag show here on Collider Video, where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name's John Campy, as you can see right there. I am your host for today, and this is a very special mailbag because we actually have internet in our offices again, which means I don't have to do these things by myself or make other people drive into the studio. I'm being joined today by Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on? From the luxury of my own office, straight to the internet. What's going on, everybody?
Good to have you with me. We're going to have a bunch of things we're going to talk about. So, as I said, guys, this is all your questions. Like, you guys dictate what this show is going to be about. We just take your mailbag questions. So let's get into it and take question number 1. And the first question we are taking today comes to us from Quinn Soared-Harris, who writes, I love your show and watch it every day. With the recent rumor of Fox and Marvel making a deal to trade the X-Men television rights for the Fantastic Four franchise, which, by the way, we know that rumor is no longer true, but this is still an interesting question because do you think that Marvel would do this simply to gain the rights for the villains? If they wanted to go bigger after Thanos, then Galactus, the Skrulls, or Doctor Doom would be a step in the right direction. So, Schnepp, what do you think? Is this an instance of, let's say Marvel is interested in getting these Fantastic Four rights back, and we know that whole trade rumor between the two of them wasn't true.
Right.
But could Marvel be interested? Because we've asked the question, like, why would they even want Fantastic Four at this point? Could they be interested in Fantastic Four, not for the Fantastic Four, but rather for the villains that come along with them?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for Doctor Doom or the Silver Surfer. What's interesting is Marvel still held on to the Inhumans, and they actually premiered in the Fantastic Four series. So that's kind of it's got to be a really weird contract that Fox has, for the Fantastic Four and what characters. I mean, obviously they have the Skrulls, obviously they have the Mole Man, obviously they have Doctor Doom, but they don't have the Inhumans, which is really weird. I mean, I don't know do they have Dragon Man or is he part of the X-Men? Because Kitty Pryde has,
it would be great to look into that contract sometime and see, like, it's probably like a 95-page contract.
It's probably like 500 pages. Who knows? But, it's interesting because a lot of people are complaining about Marvel villains just not being up to snuff. And everyone says, well, Loki was done right, but everyone, I don't really subscribe to that. I just, I think all the characters, the villains are all there. I mean, maybe they didn't work out as well as all of us wanted for some of the movie versions, but that doesn't mean they have to have Doctor Doom or Galactus or the Silver Surfer. Are those characters great? Yeah, those characters are awesome. But they kind of go with the Fantastic Four. It would be weird to see Doctor Doom without the Fantastic Four, I think.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. But it's a really great question. The reason I like this question so much is because one of the things that I kept bringing up during all these discussions about whether or not Marvel will be going for, Fantastic Four has been, they've been devalued so much. What is really the upside for Marvel? And I think, the person asking the question bangs it right on the head. It's not because of the Fantastic Four. It's because of what comes along with it. Okay, let's say Marvel doesn't have any plans for Fantastic Four, and they've got no room for them in their existing cinematic universe. That's fine. You get the Fantastic Four back. You got all these other characters who you can easily slip in. You're mentioning Thanos, and what do you do after Thanos? Galactus, or you do Doctor Doom, or things like that. So I really like the way the person who's asking the question frames it, in the sense that there was more value, and there is more value to the Fantastic Four than I think people like myself maybe originally gave it credit for, because I wasn't just looking past Fantastic Four.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Graham Butler, who writes, I completely agree that the Fox intro is part and parcel of the build-up to the intro of Star Wars films, and that pause before John Williams' iconic fanfare, still almost 30 years later, gives me goosebumps. However, is there any remote possibility that a studio would lend their brand to perpetuate that feeling? Perhaps with a with thanks to or similar text above or something? Thanks, and keep up the good work. Well, so basically the question is asking, could Fox be kind enough to lend their opening fanfare, that frum-bum, frum-bum, that we all associate with Star Wars, right? Would Fox be kind enough to lend their music of that to Disney? And I think the answer to that question would be absolutely yes. Fox would be more than happy. Why? because it would keep Fox's identity on Star Wars. The question really isn't, would Fox give or allow Disney to use the fanfare? It's, would Marvel allow Fox's fanfare, the fanfare and the ID music of another studio, to play in front of their movie?
You mean Disney?
Oh, Disney,
Marvel.
sorry.
Yeah.
And the answer to that question is a resounding hell no.
Yeah.
There's no way Disney's like, well, we make this movie and you want us to put your ID music in front of our movie? Hell no. Like, would I like it? Sure, it would give me chills, and it would be great to have that there again. But Marvel doesn't, or not Marvel, I keep saying Marvel. Disney doesn't want us, and Lucasfilm doesn't want us to continue to associate Star Wars with Fox. And
I would hate that, actually.
Really? Why would you hate that?
You know what? Because it's like Disney now owns Lucasfilm, and it's a brand new trilogy. And I think they could get that same exact value that Fox got out of that. Dun, 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 and so they could just do the same thing with the Disney castle and pull out and give that same dramatic pause. And then you're going to get that giant Star Wars John Williams boost. And no one's going to notice. I guarantee you no one will care. I think I don't need to see some corporate brand for myself, you know? That's my opinion.
I think I'll notice, but 5 seconds after where that fanfare would have been, then it'll be out of sight, out of mind. I think that first 5 seconds I'll notice, and then I think you're absolutely right. I think after that, I think I don't care. I think you don't care. I don't think anybody cares. As soon as that opening crawl starts with that John Williams music, what happened 5 seconds earlier, no one's going to give a flying rat's ass about. Like, not at all.
Yeah.
But interesting question. All right, let's move on to the next one. And the next question today comes to us from Joseph Metalrum, who writes, "Hey Collider, I was thinking about what might happen to Daniel Craig when his time as James Bond eventually concludes. What type of roles do you think he can get after being Bond, or do you think nothing Craig does will ever compete with playing 007? Schnepp, let's start with you. Can Craig ever do anything again, or like that will equal or top James Bond, or is this like the peak of his career right now?
I don't know. I'd love to hear him stop bitching about being James Bond for like 5 seconds, cry baby, slit your wrist kind of stuff. It's like, you know, go take a hot bath, man. I think anybody who's ever played James Bond, that ghost of James Bond is always carried over for the rest of their career. So even though Sean Connery would do tons of different roles, he was always associated with, but he was also James Bond. Even though he played Indiana Jones's dad, he's also James Bond. So the ghost of James Bond will haunt, especially successful James Bonds. Daniel Craig has been one of the most successful James Bonds since Sean Connery. You know, so I think whatever he does as an actor is, you know, going to be great. And I think he'll have a lot of success doing lots of different roles. He's done tons of different roles, but now that he's been James Bond now for the fourth time over the course of the last over a decade, I think everyone's going to associate with him with James Bond for the next 10, 15 years. Even after they get a brand new James Bond, all the other Bonds are always kind of associated with that character, all the actors. So
where would you rank him all time amongst the James Bonds?
Boy, I would rank him number 3. I mean, for myself, it's Sean Connery, and then Pierce Brosnan. It's maybe a tie between Daniel Craig and Pierce Brosnan right now.
Tom Baker.
Yeah, see, for me, I think Daniel Craig might be my number 1 James Bond of all time, because to me he's that perfect mixture of your Roger Moore Bond and Sean Connery Bond. But I think wherever you put him on your list, I think most people would agree. I think you and I agree. He's been a really good James Bond. As far as where will his career go after this, look, he's already established himself as a really good actor, having a very good career outside of James Bond. Whether you're talking about, like, I think a movie he's very underrated in, Defiance. He was great in that. We were talking about The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I hope he will just finally accept a little bit of a pay cut and get back over there and do the next one, because we've been waiting for it. I mean, we probably shouldn't talk about Cowboys versus Aliens. No. That was one we should probably try to avoid. But I think it's fair to say that, you know, can he do anything that'll equal James Bond again? The answer to that question is no. But, I mean, that's not a bad thing. What bigger role is there after James Bond? I mean,
nothing really.
Yeah, I mean, there's James Bond, Indiana Jones, Batman. But I mean, there's 5 or 6 roles that once you play those roles, it's okay to say to yourself, I'll never do anything bigger than this, because there isn't anything bigger than that. What more can you do as an actor? So will he have a great career after all this is done, after he's done with Bond and all that kind of stuff? Absolutely, he will continue to have a great career. Will he ever do anything as big as James Bond again? No, because nobody else is going to do, except for the next guy to play Indiana Jones or whatever. No one's ever going to play anything as big as Bond.
Nobody does it bigger. Yes, that's it, man.
All right, let's go to the next question. And the next one right now comes to us from Joe Guy. And Joe Guy writes, love the show. I'm very excited for Ron Howard's In the Heart of the Sea coming out in December. You and me both, Joe. I think we all expect the film to be a smash with the critics, but I can't help but feel worried that it might get overshadowed by the giant that is Star Wars 7. Do you think In the Heart of the Sea will still get a good amount of attention? Good question, Joe. Schnepp, let's start with you. Do you think that, at this point, can In the Heart of the Sea avoid getting drowned out, pardon the pun, drowned out by Star Wars?
Well, when does it exactly come out? Does it come out on Christmas, like the 24th?
I'll look that up. I'll look it up right now.
It's any movie that, I know Christian kept saying they should move the Alvin and the Chipmunks sequel. I don't even know why they made that, but I guess it made money. So counter programming, we were talking about that yesterday. Like any of the counter programming, washout that's going to happen with Star Wars, In the Heart of the Sea is going to get that. People are going to go see Star Wars 7. It's going to be sold out. Their entire family is going to be there. They're either going to go see Alvin and the Chipmunks, or they're going to go see In the Heart of the Sea, like a drama that just seems pretty fantastic. Chris Hemsworth, all those trailers that we've seen so far, it looks like a really fun, gripping film. Like the true tale of Moby Dick. So, it looks pretty fantastic. So I think it's going to be on everybody's radar anyway. And I think people who maybe are going to see Star Wars 7 and, it's sold out, they're going to be like, look, In the Heart of the Sea is playing. So they're definitely, I don't think it's going to get check it out. It'll get totally overshadowed by Star Wars, but I don't think it's going to really hurt its numbers. In fact, it might get some of that flavor, that that spillover.
Yeah. Now, if what I'm looking up is correct, it actually opens on December 3rd, so it opens up about 2 weeks beforehand. So it should be able to avoid that storm, if you will. That will be Star Wars. And you know what? It's not only Alvin and the Chipmunks that's opening against Star Wars. The new Amy Poehler movie Sisters with Tina Fey is also opening against Star Wars. That's see, I don't know. Chipmunks I can understand. Opening a movie like Sisters up against it,
hey, they're doing that counter programming. Hey, we'll just get some of that. We'll get some of that flavor. I think that's what they're counting on.
I guess so. Look, I think In the Heart of the Sea is going to do well, because not only does it look like it's going to be a fabulous movie with one of the great directors in Hollywood today, with a really great actor in Chris Hemsworth in it. The trailers have been spectacular. Yeah. And they've been spectacular to the point that it looks like the kind of movie that people who love good feature films are going to be into, but it also looks like the type of movie that people are into, the big, fun spectacle film, are also going to be into. So I think In the Heart of the Sea is going to do really well, as a matter of fact, at least for 2 weeks.
That's right. For 2 weeks, that's a good run.
And then it'll run into that freight train known as Alvin and the Chipmunks.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question right now comes to us from Aaron Ramirez Benistro, who writes, Hey, Collider crew, love the show. My question is, with Naomi Scott from the movie The Martian being cast as the new Pink Ranger for the upcoming Power Rangers reboot, how long do you guys think it will be until the whole Power Rangers team is cast? Is there any particular actor you guys would like to see in this Power Rangers reboot? I personally would love to see an Andrew Garfield be the new Blue Ranger, because he did a great job as being a smart Peter Parker in the Amazing Spider-Man series. Thanks, and keep up the awesome. Well, thanks a lot for the question. Appreciate that. You're not going to see... Well, by the way, they've now cast, I think, 4. 4 of the roles have now been cast, and none of them are, and none of the rest of the cast will be known actors. Not necessarily because they're going for the unknown names, but mostly because no reputable named actors who are getting work today will want to be in a Power Rangers movie. That will look, this is just my opinion, Schnepp, you may think differently, but it would look pathetic to them. You're not going to, an Andrew Garfield would never agree. Now, understand too, Andrew Garfield's in his 30s, I think. So he's way too old to be in the Power Rangers movie anyway. But I don't think his manager or his agent or him himself would ever allow himself to be in a movie like this. It just would not happen. So they're going to go for unknowns. And you know what? That's probably not a bad idea to get unknowns anyway. So you're not going to see an Andrew Garfield joining the cast or anybody like him, I don't think. You're going to mostly get these unknown actors who've maybe been in one or two tiny little things. I mean, we talk about Naomi was in The Martian. She was barely in The Martian.
Barely in it, yeah.
So I think, the names you've seen cast so far, these are the types of names you can expect to see. Look, I said from the beginning, I think this Power Rangers movie is a stupid idea. Like, really dumb. But it all depends on what type of flavor they want to give it. Like, if they want to make it like the original TV show and make it like those original movies, it's going to be a disaster, I think. But if you do something, there are a lot of things you could do that would be kind of cool with it that could make it really interesting. So I'm curious. So I don't know, Schnepp, what do you say? Do you think we could see a named reputable actor pop up in this thing? And what flavor do you think they're going to go for?
I think the only name actor that you'll actually see is the one who's going to play the villain, just like they did with Frank Langella in Masters of the Universe. He played Skeletor, and he's an incredible actor, and he was great in that film.
Great Skeletor.
He's an awesome Skeletor. I have a list of the people they got. They got Ludi Lin to play the Black Ranger. Obviously, they got Naomi Scott to play the Pink Ranger, and then they got this guy, Deirdre Montgomery, to play the Red Ranger. And they got R.J. Seiler to play the Blue Ranger. So the only person they haven't cast yet is the Yellow Ranger, and I've never heard of any of these people. So I think they're up and comers. They're like, they've barely been in maybe a couple of TV shows or like side little bits in movies and here and there. But you're not going to get any name actors to be any of the main Power Rangers, nor would you want to have any name actors, I think, to be any of the Power Rangers, because you kind of want to have a fresh start. And remember, it's Saban. He's making this. It's not like that little short, that really cool Ranger Power or whatever it was, that super violent short that had the Power Rangers kind of mixed with Mortal Kombat. We're not going to get that kind of flavor. I think we're going to get like people in spandex, like Go Team Action 7, and then becoming a giant weird monster and fighting a turtle and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the only name actor you'll get are the supervillains. So
yeah, you're probably right. All right, let's move on to the next question. The next question today comes to us from Robbie Wenzel, who writes, what is your thought on a Hunger Games prequel set about the rise of the Capitol and fall of the districts, and even the first Hunger Games? President Snow's father could be the main antagonist. Schnepp, you and I have actually had some conversations before about, when the Hunger Games is done its run. It's been an incredible run, very successful.
Right.
As we've already seen with the Harry Potter franchise, that author, even though she said, like J.K. Rowling's, even though she said, okay, now it's done, she keeps going back to it. Now we're hearing stories about new different types of Potter things. Do you think they're really going to say this is the end of the Hunger Games, or do you think they could go back and do prequel kind of stuff and look at how this whole world got set up in the first place?
No, this is definitely not the end of that kind of series. No, they'll do prequels. They're going to do sequels. They're going to be rolling in that money. That's a crazy amount of money to just walk away from. And we always get sequels to things that were barely hits. This is like a mega hit. So I think just like J.K. Rowling was like, I'm not really done with Harry Potter's universe yet. I do want to buy these other 7 mansions. I mean, it's sort of like, it's not even really about money. I don't think it is. When these creators have a cool thing and then they go try some other stuff for a while, there's no harm in going back to a really cool idea and having some more fun with it. So I think something like the Hunger Games definitely has all those prequels are kind of pre-built into the movie. It could be a television series. It could be a series of prequel movies. How did the Hunger Games start? All that kind of stuff. So I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah, I think with a series like Hunger Games, one of the things they've done really, really well, at least this is one of the things that makes the series work for me, is they've set up a great mythology. The mythology of Hunger Games about the 13 districts and about the caste system that you have, about one ruling and the others laboring. How did 13 go underground in the first place? How did this whole thing get set up? What evil brought on the Hunger Games as something to start? I gotta say, look, I'm ready to say let's leave well enough alone. There's been 4 Hunger Games movies. Let's give it a break. But if the studio were to come out, if they were to come out and say, get ready, folks, in 2018, the world of the Hunger Games comes back with Hunger Games Year 1 or Hunger Games The Beginning.
Right.
Or, whatever, something stupid like that. Hunger Games.
They could drop 4 movies at the same time in District 1, 2, 3, and 4 and have all the districts fighting each other. You have to see 4 movies and they're all integrated.
Did you hear about this? You know the woman who wrote Twilight, what's it called? 50 Shades of Grey.
Right.
She just put out the exact same book, except this book is told from the perspective of the dude instead of this perspective from the girl. It's the same book. And so that's right. Now we're going to tell the whole Hunger Games saga again from the perspective of District 2 and then from the perspective of District 3. But
why not?
I'll be honest with you. I like the idea of going back and visiting. How did this whole thing get started? And I'm somebody who doesn't like prequels. I don't like prequels. But if you're not just going back 4 years, but you're going back 50 years, however many years ago the Hunger Games was supposed to have started, if you're going to do that, I think there's some interesting things you can do.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, let's move on to the second to last question today. And this question comes to us from Peter Schwartz, who writes, "Hey guys, love the show." Thank you so much, Peter. My question is this. Campia, what a guy, has stated previously and on numerous occasions that he does not want Fox to give up the rights to their properties back to Marvel because he doesn't think having characters such as Fantastic Four in the MCU. However, nobody is complaining that Warner Brothers has all the rights to the DC properties, and everyone is excited for them despite no proven track record for a consecutive universe. Why the difference, especially when Marvel has proven to make their connective universe work? Thanks. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Peter. And I would simply say this. There's a big significant difference. Now, the question he's asking is basically this. Look, I say leave the X-Men out of the DC Cinematic Universe. Leave all these people outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I like having another studio involved. I like it being more than just a 2-studio contest. I like there being multiple studios put out multiple movies so we get all types of comic book movies and some really good ones. Look, Fox is crushing it with their X-Men franchise right now. Let's see how Deadpool does. I think it's going to be great. Maybe Gambit. I'm not so sure about Gambit, but who knows? We got Apocalypse coming, which I'm sure is going to be awesome because Bryan Singer has yet to make a bad X-Men film. So I often say, no, I like that. So it's a fair question to ask. We'll say, well, you say that, but you're not complaining about Warner Brothers having all their stuff. There's a big, significant difference. Warner Brothers never gave away their other characters. I mean, the way the situation is that there is a bunch of Marvel comic book properties that are at other studios. That's the way the situation is. DC didn't make that happen. Nobody made that happen. Marvel did. So for the last, I don't know, Schnepp, how many years has it been now that since Marvel first gave up a bunch of the characters? Like 15, 20 years?
Yeah, like in the 90s, in the late 90s when they sold off Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, and X-Men.
Yeah, so like basically for an entire film generation, this is the reality we live in. But also within that generation, the reality has always been that all of DC's characters have stayed with DC. So there's no point in me complaining for them, the fact that they have them. I'm not asking them to change. I just don't want the situation to change. I like X-Men being outside of Marvel. I like that Sony still has control of Spider-Man, and though, like everybody else, it's pretty cool that we're going to get to see him play in the MCU as well. But I much prefer that Sony still has control over them because I think that gives us some more diversity. I've given up on Fantastic Four though, man. I'm through defending that and saying keep Fantastic Four. No, send Fantastic Four back to Marvel, even though they won't do anything with them at this point. So that's why I think there's a significant difference. We're talking about what has been the status quo for the last 20 years versus changing things. And I would like to keep this status quo that we have right now because I believe it's working for film fans. So I don't know, Schnepp, what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird situation because, you look at the next 2 years, the slates on the next 2 years, there's like 7 movies, but 5 of them are Marvel films and 2 of them are DC films for each of the years.
Right.
It is because Warner Brothers owns those characters and those rights, and they're not putting out as much content as all these other studios that also own Marvel characters. You have Fox, and you have what's the other one? You have Fox, Marvel, and Sony.
Yeah.
So you have those 3 studios. Now Sony's kind of come back and is working with Marvel. So Marvel's moved their movies around. I kind of like the idea of being able to have other studios do these. Like, I love the way the X-Men movies have come out, and especially not integrated with the Marvel universe. So, but DC's never done that. I think the closest you'll see is like some Vertigo films, like Sandman will come out, but it won't be integrated with Batman v Superman. Yeah. But, I don't know what their output's going to be so far. They haven't even set a date for Sandman. So,
yeah, and look, I'll be honest with you too. If an announcement got made tomorrow that Warner Brothers and Universal entered into a deal, because Universal's been crushing it lately with everything they're doing, say that Warner Brothers is giving Universal Flash, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, and Hawkman, whatever. And they're going to have, and Warner Brothers gets 5% of all box office receipts, plus Universal pays them $100 million for each of the characters. So it's a $400 million deal. I would actually be really excited. That now another player comes in with some great comic book material to give us fans movies about. DC would still have a plethora of characters to draw from to add to Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman and Aquaman to make your Justice League. I would be really excited about it. So I'm not complaining that Warner Brothers has all their stuff, but make no mistake about it, I would actually be jumping up and down with some excitement if another studio like Universal, that is not in the superhero game at all, got their hands on a couple of properties. How would you react to that? I'm just curious to know what you think. So if they announce that tomorrow, what would you think?
I think it'd be stupid. I mean, because then they wouldn't be able to do the Justice League. If giving away their big heavy hitters, I would say give Universal the Doom Patrol, who are like very much like X-Men style characters, but DC's not doing anything with it. There's actually a guy in a wheelchair controlling a bunch of mutants. That's what Doom Patrol is. I would also give them all of the Charlton characters, which include Blue Beetle, The Question. Basically, that's all of the characters that Alan Moore originally was writing before he changed them all to turn that into The Watchmen, was all of the Charlton characters. That's its own entire universe, and DC's not doing anything with them. It'd be such a cool thing for DC to just like make a side deal with Universal. Like, look, you could have this subsection of, even though all of our characters are integrated in the comic books, you can have them in this own universe. So, those are the ones I would say.
So you actually like the idea of Universal getting their hands on some DC properties, just not the ones that I mentioned.
Yeah, because then the ones you mentioned are all integrated into Batman and Superman. They're really kind of been part of the Justice League since the 60s. So, but DC has so many characters that they're not doing anything with. It's kind of painful.
But I think Universal, okay, but let's say you're the head of Warner Brothers, and Universal comes to you and says, okay, but we need one or two marquee names. We need one or two marquee names that we can build our cinematic universe around that at least has some public recognition. Which characters because remember, you've already got Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, all already in this new, and Cyborg, by the way.
Right.
So if Universal were to say to you, we need one or two, to make this deal work for us, we need one or two significant names, which ones would you be willing to give up?
Totally Shazam. I'd be like,
that's a good one.
So you already got The Rock attached as the main villain. He's a superstar. You can totally have Shazam. I would give that to them.
I think that would make that deal work, actually. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the last question of the day. And the final question today comes to us from Matthew Bellerose, who writes, with the show Hannibal being done for now, cross his fingers, I have to say that it is my favorite TV show of all time. I'm truly sad that the show has ended. However, I'm ever so slightly excited that Brian Fuller already knew what season 4 script would be. Being a huge fan of the books, it also gets me excited that there was talk of the Silence of the Lambs storyline for the future of the show. What also gets me excited is the fact that they're trying to raise money to make a movie. My question is, how long do you think it will take before they make a Hannibal movie from the TV series, if it's going to happen? The answer is never. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there's never going to be another Hannibal Lecter movie, but a Hannibal movie based on the TV show, it's not going to happen unless it's like a straight to VOD kind of thing. But I don't consider that a real movie per se. Of course, it's a real movie. But when I say movie, I'm talking about that goes wide release in all the theaters and all that kind of stuff. Because the show went off the air for a reason, despite the fact, and I was late to the game. Schnepp got me turned on to Hannibal. So I was late to the game. And you're right, it's a brilliant show. It's really good. But the fact of the matter is, it was, for some reason, it just wasn't able to get that audience. I think because people like me were just never jumped onto it when it was really in its heyday until it was already kind of too late. But that being the case, you know, financiers are going to say, you want $40 million from me to make a motion picture? People didn't watch this when it was free. I mean, how am I going to make my money back if I give you $40 million? It's the same thing with Arrested Development. I mean, people kept saying for years and years and years, oh, no, an Arrested Development movie's coming. I kept telling people, no, it is not. There is not an Arrested Development movie coming. It will like maybe it'll pop up on TV again, and then it did with another season on Netflix, but it's not going to be a movie. And I think the situation is the same here. That saddens me. But all honesty, I would rather hear than a movie come out. I would rather hear that a Hulu, because remember, the Mindy Project was getting axed, and then Hulu stepped in, and now the Mindy Project lives natively on Hulu. I would rather see like a Hulu step up or an Amazon or something like that step up and save the show and give us another season. Anyway, you can do that much cheaper. It becomes more practical. But I just don't think we're going to see a movie. Schnepp is the guy who turned me on to this franchise. Do you think we could ever see a feature film of the TV series?
No, I don't think so. In fact, I don't want to see a Hannibal movie. I want to see them do the fourth season, even a fifth season, if they were able to do like a mini series, like you said, on a Hulu or a Netflix or something like that, or Amazon. I think that's kind of the answer. I think Brian Fuller made an amazing series with Hannibal, and the reason it's such an amazing series is it has this tone, it has this pace that you're not able to capture in a 90-minute movie. I mean, I'm sure you would be able to get it, but that's what was great about the series to me is you had 10 of these, or every season is just this full story. I know they were going to adapt The Silence of the Lambs for season 4, so I would hope that, but it was going to have all the different changes that Mads Mikkelsen brings to that character and that Brian Fuller and his writing team brought to the series. So I would definitely like to see them continue as a series in some form, shape, but not as a feature film, no.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, folks, that will do it for us for this installment of Collider Movie Talk, Mailbag, whatever it is we're calling it here. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, I want to thank, of course, my guest today, co-hosting with me, Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
You guys can follow me on Twitter, just at John Schnepp, and follow at TDOSLWH. Sorry, I can't even speak right now. Anyway, go to the site, www.tdoslwh.com, and you can get my film, The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. You can get a digital download or a Blu-ray. Check it out.
And you guys can follow me simply on Facebook and on Twitter at John Campea right there. And you'll be able to come back and join John Schnepp and I again tomorrow for another installment of Mailbag. Of course, we won't actually be back. We're recording this on Friday. I'm going to let you in behind the curtain, let you know the secrets of production. We're going to be back again tomorrow. So make sure you come back and join us again tomorrow. So that'll do it for us, guys. My name is John Campea. Thanks so much for joining us. And until next time, bye-bye.